good to move to our next speaker. And today we have with us Amit Chandak. He is Chief Analytics Officer at Canerica, and he's also a Microsoft MVP for data platform. Also a super user with the Power BI community. And if you have not checked out his YouTube videos yet, you can definitely check out because there is a lot of good content around the data platform. Thank you, Amit, for coming here with us today. Can you hear me?
Am I
Yeah.
audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes. Today I have to share the same screen. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, based on the location everybody is joining. I'm going to share my screen and in a minute. And today there is a second screen, so probably, uh, hopefully, we'll be able to manage with this. Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so thank you, PowerAIthon community, for inviting me to this session, and I welcome everybody who's joining this session on a Saturday afternoon. It is a pleasure to be talking with you and taking this session. So today I'm going to talk about MCP server. As you know that we are living in the data and AI era, and we want development to be done by the LLMs. We just want to give the command in the natural language, and we want these LLMs to take care of the rest of the operations. Now, when you do for programming language, now most of the tools have that already had an integration. And when we develop the code using languages, we have the development studio, and the integration is happening with development studio. But what happens in the system like Power BI or Microsoft Fabric, which are basically self-servant driven system, they're UI based system. We are not writing any code there. Most of the time we are dragging, dropping, and the operations are happening in the backend. So with the systems where operations are handling the backend, how we are going to handle these things. And that is where, MCP servers are going to help us out. And today we are going to discuss that. I have planned a demo. Hopefully, the capacity does not run out of the things, and we should be able to do. I just kept the backup capacity up and running, but let's see. So, welcome to the session. And so, first of all, we need to understand MCP server. Now, if you are from a Power Platform world, not pure play from the Power BI world, this is might be a very common term, because these things are available for long for with MCP servers are available long for Power Platform. But if you specifically talk about Fabric or Power BI, they have been introduced recently, and means comparatively, I don't say that they just came yesterday, but if you compare that, they have came very recently, and these are needed for us so that we can give the AI agent commands, and all those operations can be performed on the back end with help from the AI agent. So Microsoft Fabric provide two complementary model context protocol servers that enables AI agent to interact with Fabric using natural language. Choose the cloud hosted the core server for quick access, or the Fabric workspace items, or the Pro local dev server for the development workflows with file system access extendability. So so basically the cloud hosted one or the one which you can install. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the cloud hosted one for the demo purpose. So let's understand a little bit about the model context protocol. Model context protocol is an open standard enables AI agents to secure access external data sources and services through a unified interface. MCP removes AI interaction. MCP moves AI interaction beyond the conversation to actual system control, allowing agent to read data, perform operations, and automate workflows. So basically, whatever instructions which you are giving, they would be, interacting with the MCP server, and based on that, the work is doing. It's not that, Fabric is providing an MCP server, Power BI is providing MCP server. If you have the set of APIs, you can also go ahead and try to build an MCP server for that set. But if you are a developer of an application, let's say you are developing an app, and if that app is basically doing some, let's say, backend operation, it goes and insert data and everything, then you should be thinking, how can you create your own MCP server? Because if you want LLMs to do those work, or you want the automation to be done, then you need to create your own MCP server, and you need to have all those API and the documentation of the API exposed to the system, which will enable the LLM, or which will enable the AI to do the task for you. So what are the key benefits here? Standardized interface. One protocol works across all the agents, VS Code with GitHub Copilot, Cloud Desktop, and custom agents. So today I'm going to use this VS Code with GitHub Copilot, but my team is extensively working in this Cloud Desktop, and they have successfully integrated MCP server. In fact, they have not only integrated MCP server, they also integrated the DevOps, the Azure DevOps. And now what we can do is we can go and say, okay, this is my ticket number, let's say 2100. For the ticket 2100, can you give me uh, what code I supposed to do, or what is the requirements are there for that? Can you do the development? So let's say if we say build a lake house, it will go ahead and build it. Excuse me for a second. Sorry. Now, secure by design, built-in authentication, role-based access, audit, trial, protect, and your enterprise data. So when I go there, you will see that I have already done authentication. And in fact, just before this one, I was checking if I have the permission to go ahead and make sure that my lakehouse is visible. In fact, I have to make sure that the capacities are up and running and I have enough capacity to run all those things. So definitely security is one aspect. I am admin of the workspace. I am admin of the Power BI tenant also. So I'm able to run and do more things, but it is not necessary that everything I'm trying, the same thing can be performed by other users. Typed operation, defined schemas for the input and output, reduce error by improved readability, and discoverable capabilities. AI agent explore available operations automatically and adapt to what you can access. How does it work? Once you give a, let's say, command, let's say if I say create a lake house, or uh, create a workspace. Now workspace is something which does not work with MCP servers, but if you want to do that, you can integrate Azure CLI. And I have done that, but I'll showcase you that when I try to create a workspace only using MCP server, it will not be able to do that. So it is not that not those APIs are part of it. It is not the amount of API currently MCP server is enabling for us. Because there are various methods you can create workspace using the let's say semantic link lab library or semantic lab library. So you can still do that, but and Azure CLI is another option where you can do it. But yes, yeah, if the alone one thing is not sufficient, you can club up other thing and can also get the task done. So the agent analyze your prompt and understand your intent. Means is going to read the text. Okay, I want to create a workspace, or I want to create a lake house or a warehouse. So it's going to understand that. The agent discover available MCP tools and select the appropriate operation. So it has to go and find out, okay, do I have an API which can create the workspace? Uh, okay. MCP server authenticates your request and validate your permission. So then it goes ahead and authenticate. Okay, can you connect with the server? And the server calls the API on your behalf. Then it calls the API. Now there are very high chances if you have access, and if you doesn't have the access, the API call may fail. If you have the access, the API call will succeed. Agent interprets the API response and provides the natural language answer. Now you might get a 400 error, 401 error, 402 error. We don't know understand what that is. But what agent will do is, if it gets the success or it gets the failure, it could be a success message. Let's say 200 is a success message, 201 is a failure message. It is going to look at that message, interpret it, and then it's going to provide you message in the natural language. So you are communicating in natural language, and answer is also coming back in natural language. So what is then Fabric Core MCP server? The Fabric Core MCP server is a remote cloud hosted endpoint that exposes Fabric agent can connect it without installing software. Just add a server URL and authenticate with your Microsoft Enter ID. So I give this server, I'll add it to my VS Code. Once I added it, it will ask me for the authentication. Once I do the authentication, then it will be able to communicate with the backend. Here, the backend is basically Power BI service. Now, key characteristics of this one, cloud hosted, because this is not on premise. So definitely it is cloud hosted. Somewhere it need to be hosted either on your machine or on cloud. No local installation required. Connect by pointing your AI agent to the server URL. API driven. Each MCP tools maps to Fabric REST API for workspaces, item permissions, and more. O2 OAuth 2.0 authentication, automatic authentication through the Microsoft Entra using the existing credentials. So basically, I'm going to use my own login by which I'm going to enter into the server, and then I'm going to run whatever permissions I have using that ID. So other usual method is connecting via service principal, but right now we are using OAuth. So RBAC, every operation respect your Fabric role assignment like admin, member, contributor, or viewer. You can only access resources you are authorized to use. So basically, if I'm not authorized to use something, let's say if I'm a viewer in a workspace and I try to create some item, I will not be able to do. Let's say if I'm a member, I'm a contributor and I'm not supposed to create an app, then probably if that is allowed, I'm not able to do that. Audit log, all the actions are recorded in Fabric audit logs with your user identity. So we will be able to trace back who's doing what. And security and compliance, authentication required. All operations require valid credentials. RBAC inform role-based access control. You can access the resources you are authorized to use. No privilege escalation. Server don't grant additional permission beyond what you have in the Fabric. Token-based, short-lived access token with automatic refresh. So now we are going to jump on the demo. Meanwhile, let me see, do we see any questions on the chat window? Okay, there's nothing. We'll continue. So I'm going to now jump on to the MCP server. And just before coming to this one, I just tested, do I have access to my workspace? So I have created this workspace before, and this workspace it cannot create, but we'll go to try it out. Can it create a workspace? So I'll ask, first thing I'll ask, list 10 workspaces I have access to. And if you're not sure, it's going to use MCP server, because here what happens is if I look at the extensions which I have installed and I search for MCP server, this is where how I installed it. So let me make it a little bigger. So you can see that I have installed the Fabric MCP server. It is already installed. If you don't have, you can search for the extension and install MCP server. Other than that, you will see, I think I have installed the CLI for Azure also. And Azure CLI tools is also Azure. One thing I've installed Azure. I don't think Azure CLI extension, but I already installed, and because of that, it also allows me to access the CLI. We'll see whether it allows me or not. So, so MCP server plugin is the most important for Fabric. So you need to install the Fabric MCP server. Just for your reference, I'll again show you. So the name is Microsoft Fabric MCP server, which you're supposed to install. And once you install, you will be able to do this. In my case, it's already installed, so I don't need to do that. First time, it will definitely ask for authentication, and subsequently, if the token expires, it will again ask you for the authentication. Now, let me close this and create a bigger space here. Access to. So I'm asking to list the workspaces, and if you're not sure it's using MCP server, let's say you have installed multiple tools and those can do that job, you can actually ask it. Now, once it have some command, it cannot run directly. It's going to ask you allow or allow for this session or allow in this workspace and all those. Right now I'm using allow so that we can see what all it is doing. Okay, so it listed out 10 workspaces. Okay, and let me ask him to create a new workspace. Create workspace 000 Power BIAIThon. Let's say using, and I'm forcing it to using MCP Fabric MCP server. So it's looking for available tool for setting up the workspace. And I'm expecting that it's going to say that there is no API available right now. Okay, so the Fabric MCP server doesn't expose create workspace operations. Okay, good news is you already created a workspace, create Fabric workspace scripted wanted me. Okay, I'll ask a different question now. I say, can you do it using other method and use the same capacity used by workspace? Let me see the name. No. Okay, so I'll go to the workspace and I copy this name. Use capacity which is used by this workspace, and let's see, is it able to create it? You cannot do it. So I'm just checking, do I have something else here? Like, can it use the command prompt? Can it use Azure CLI or something and can start doing it? Now, it is not MCP server, Fabric MCP server, which is going to do it. So let's see. Okay, and it's asking to allow. So you can see AZ account and these commands little different than what we have used previously. And let's check. Then again, AZ account token access, and then we have the capacity ID. It got the capacity ID and trying to use that capacity ID. So basically I said, okay, you have to create a workspace, but you need to use someone else's capacity, which is very similar to the other workspace, because I don't remember the capacity ID. If I would have given the capacity ID, it would have not done an additional call. Now, every time you are doing that, you have to remember that it is going to do one additional call. It is also going to resolve one additional stuff. Now it has done that. It did have created the workspace. So now we can go ahead and check it out. And really keep these names like 000. Refresh that. I'm refreshing the page to see if the new workspace has come and is it using the capacity. So we got the new workspace. And so I opened that workspace from the left-hand side workspaces. So here it is that. This is the place where the workspaces is there. Let's see okay, highlight is off today. And then I'll go to the workspace setting on the right top. And if I go there, the second option is workspace type. And in the workspace type option, if I see it is using the Fabric India capacity, this is the same capacity the other workspace was also using. So it has taken that. Now it is done. Now I'll go ahead and ask a next question. Create lake house. And what I can do is probably I should have taken the ID, or maybe let's take ID. Lake house, lake 01 in workspace. So instead of going again, it did cache. Means it's not that it's not going to have that in cache that with the workspace ID. So now allow in this session is asking to allow certain set of commands in allow in session. If you don't want that, you can use allow once or always allow. But I'm going to use now allow in this session so that we don't have to again and again give the similar kind of permissions. So these kind of permissions I'm giving it for this session now. And if I want to change change this setting, then I can use this plus button, start a new chat. As good to do that. Now running create Fabric item. Now there is a limit how much you can run. Also, your capacity should not exceed. Both the things should be there, because yesterday both things have happened with me. One is one time it exceeded the number of commands I could have given in a particular time frame, and second time my capacity already exceeded the limit. In both cases, it did not work. So it is showing me the message that it is created, and let's go and test it out. So lake 01 is already created here. Now we have a lake house. Now let's try, can it add a table? create a table EMP in lake. For EMP name with random values. Okay. Let's see. Can it create a table? So now it's trying to figure it out. Is there a tool available? So for what you are asking, I'm realizing MCP server doesn't directly create it, have a direct table creation tool. I will need to use Fabric notebook with Spark SQL to create EMP table with sample data. Let's allow this. Again, allow. And let me do, okay, let me only use allow. I just want to see what it is running. Okay, now it doesn't have that. So it's asking to install, okay, allow in this session. I'm also trying this for first time. I have not tried out creating a table in the lake house, and I'm assuming it will not run out of both the, 1 second. Especially if it asks for you to restart something, unless you're not sure, don't do that. So install it, install the Delta Lake, and let's see, can it run? Okay, now d:/Python C import Delta Lake, and then it's allowed. Like now it's trying to run a Python code from here, which will actually do that. Okay, see, it has something which it has created the random records. Okay, seems like it did not work out. Error it's giving. Okay, so that code did not work. It's trying out the another code, but if it fails multiple times, what we are going to do is let's just go to, okay, ask him to stop. And the reason for that is basically it's trying to run a PySpark notebook from here local, the code it's trying to pass, which I'm thinking it's not allowed. Okay, so what we are going to do here? Okay, finally, it's able to create that. Okay, so we'll go here. We go to the lake house, lake 01. See, so it tried the code, it failed, it again tried out correcting it. So see, this is the same thing we could have done. Now, how to create a table? What is that random data? I have not given anything. I just said, okay, have employee ID, have employee name, get some random data. So random data creation was also done by the LLM. It got some code. It was not able to figure that out. It did done something, many went ahead, tried out those issue fixes and done it and able to do it. Now this looks really good, but can we create a notebook itself on the mm, Microsoft Fabric? So let's ask, add the notebook to the same workspace with name add EMP to employee and EMP to employee, which can add next 10 random employees. Let's see. So to the same workspace, 10 random employees to the same table in same lake house. Everything is same. Okay, not even calling it house, just called it lake. So figure out now the current workspace ID, current lake house ID, current table, and use the table to create a notebook and add the code inside that. I'm not writing anything, I'm just giving the instructions and waiting for it to complete. Now, it has defined that the user want to create Fabric notebook in 001 AI Power AI Thon workspace add EMP employee workspace called. Okay, workspace it has and I need to stop. Okay, and you say use workspace. So I stopped it because I found that okay, it is doing something which looking a little different to me, and because of that reason, I am now change the instruction. Okay, so it's say okay, it's created. So let's go ahead and check it out. So we go to the Power BI AI Thon, refresh it, and see is there a notebook. I don't see a notebook, so let's wait for allow. So let's see, after we executed this code, do we see that? And meanwhile, it is asking some file change. We'll keep those. Now it is asking AZ token seems like is it going outside the server? Let's allow. Okay. Notebook. Okay. Allow. Okay. So successfully published AI Thon with Lake 01. Okay. Generate 10 random employees. Let's see that now. Okay. I've not seen it adding the code, but it has added the code. Now, the one thing which I found it never does is basically does not connect it. So you will not find it connected to Lakehouse 01, but we have to go and manually do it from the Lake 01. We are, and now after this, I'll go and check it out. What all tools, what all tools you have used. And while he's doing 1 second. So I'm asking what all tools it has had. I have doubt that is it only using MCP server or what all things it has used. Okay. So MCP server tool, file server workspace tool, terminal and processing. See, it used terminal. It did use Python environment. And so run AZ login. See, we saw this AZ login, Fabric REST API workspace creation notebook. Okay. So this, it has been used in PowerShell. Okay. So now we got it. And now we'll try if it can run the workspace notebook which has created. Can you run the notebook created last? Let's see. We're trying to see if it can run the notebook created last. And while it is doing so, let's go on to here and also duplicate this tab. And the reason I'm doing it, I just wanted to make sure, are there already 12 employees? We don't trust. We just want to make sure that whatever instructions we are giving, it's following that. Okay, so still there are two. And now let's go back. It's asking for again. I can see AZ command. Let's look at that. So it has triggered the notebook run Fabric REST API. Now, next one is authentication bearer. Okay, let's use allow this session. Okay. 10 employees verified. Lake 01 has notebook execution plus table append confirm end to end. Okay, so the notebook has already run as per this. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh. So we have 12 records. I have neither touched the fabric, nor does I went and written any code, nor does I know how to do this append. Everything is been done by the Copilot agent. The random data generation is also done by it. Okay, it created a name pool. So let's look at this code. Import random PySpark SQL, PySpark SQL types. It created a name pool. It created the rows. Schema it has given. Spark.create data frame. df.show, df.format.write delta, dot append, save table as printed. None of these things means it's at least 26 lines of code. Uh, and we may or may not be knowing everything, or maybe run it a little differently. Okay, so it has done that. Now, what we can do here is basically we can go ahead and check out. Let's go to the workspace back and see, does it show any runs here? Recent runs. Okay, so look at this. It does show that the recent run has happened. Run notebook, kind scheduled, minute. So it did scheduled and run it using that API. Now, let's go back and check. Did you use MCP server for notebook run? I'm checking. Is it using MCP server or is it using something else? No, I didn't use MCP server for notebook run. Okay, so it's not using. Okay, can you create a pipeline using, now I'm forcing it, using Fabric MCP server and add the last notebook as activity. So I'm now checking, can it get, no, we can ask it to list down what all Fabric MCP server is supporting. We can do that also. Okay, what it is wanted. MCP server can create data pipeline item shell, but it can't inject pipeline JSON definition. So I will use MCP server to create for creation, then patch the definition with notebook activity via Fabric REST API. Okay. So while, so this is what is happening here. Now we are using two things here. While we talked about MCP server, we did enable the command lines and we are able to do all those operations using the command lines. And, and remember, I am a admin privileged user here. I do have access of creating most of those things. I do have even privilege and my environment is set up for me to use the command lines. Okay. Do you want me to trigger this pipeline and run? No, right now I don't want to trigger it. Let me go ahead and check the pipeline, what it has created. So now I don't need to even learn how to create a pipeline, isn't it? Okay. So though it was a very small job of creating a pipeline, but even I don't have to do that. And then look at the one, there is only one activity and then activity. If I go click on that activity name, go to settings and it is able to do that. This one now there is no connection here. And this is something which you might have to do when you create the bigger pipelines. There are very high chances that it is not able to connect that. So you have to go and, browse all. And this is basically a notebook activity. So you have to do now. Why this? Previously, if you remember, some of you might have used it. There was nothing like this. Space identity, service principal. Let's see, connect. There was nothing like this. Okay, I need to create a workspace identity or I need to have a service principal for this, which I don't have right now. It's forcing me to do that. But right now I'll leave it as is. But I think it should not give me that if I go ahead and add a notebook activity from here. Let's see, does it ask for that? Select, browse, notebook. Okay. So workspace identity automatically it is taking. In that case, it is not taking. So I just wanted to test that out. Okay. So what happened in Microsoft Fabric initially when you used to add any activity, it automatically used to go ahead and use your own your authentication. Now, what happens when you do the deployment pipeline or when you do migration or when somebody leaves your organization or next person takes in, it creates huge uh, problems in uptaking those. And that is where every activity which is added, now the activity addition, the activity in this pipeline, who is the whose identity it is going to use to run that, is that is where everything is now becoming service principal or service account or workspace identity. And that is why in the newer versions of pipeline, all the activities you will find you need to have some kind of authentication created or some kind of a connection created. Even for adding a notebook, I can understand if I want to go to a lake house or warehouse, I need a connection. But for all the activities, you need a connection because when you want to run, when you want to migrate, you need to have somebody's you can say impersonation or somebody's authentication or some authentication, either identity or workspace or the service principal to make sure that it is able to authenticate and then run it. those activities. So all those ownership problems on those pipeline problems goes away all with all these activities having their own this one. 1 second. So now we don't have much time left. So let's ask this, what all MCP server can do for me. So now I know there are capabilities which are part of MCP server, which are part of, Fabric APIs, and it's doing mix and match. So I ask, okay, what all MCP server can do for me? Okay, so let's scroll up and see. It can list the workspace, list the items in the workspace, files and directly list files, create, delete directories, upload, list tables, list names, namespaces, get table metadata, column, schema config, preview lakehouse table data, get column statistic. Okay, so at table data, if you might have seen that when it created the table, it did show us the data of that, but we can test that out. Now, Fabric Notebook MCP can create the notebook, download and publish notebook, compare local versus remote notebook, get notebook context, set default lakehouse to the notebook, which actually did not happen when we tried it out. And then there are query notebook utils, query code examples, get Fabric notebook utils, and then Fabric docs of MCP and all those. So there are tons of things which it can do. Let's see, does it have a warehouse API? Create a warehouse WH01 in same workspace. While I'm trying to finish up with few more activities, if you have some questions, please type. Also, I'm not an expert at the MCP server, the how MCP servers works and all those. Probably I'm the Fabric expert, just trying to use it as a consumer. So architecture wise, if you have some question, I may have to skip. Okay, so it does have this one, and let's look. Is it able to create a warehouse? We'll go back to the workspace. Refresh it. And we have a warehouse. Now, you might have noticed something when I created the lake house or warehouse, those who are there on Microsoft Fabric for some time, there's no default semantic model now. And that is why for warehouse, there is nothing additional coming in. It's by default a SQL analytics endpoint, means because it's a T-SQL enabled. So the Explorer or the T-SQL endpoint is same, unlike Lakehouse, where we have a Lakehouse Explorer and T-SQL separately. So it did create a warehouse, and let's check. Can you add a table in warehouse using MCP server? Okay, so MCP server, it cannot add this one. Okay, so we'll check if we can create a semantic model. Can you create a semantic model with the tables in Lake 01? There's a spelling mistake. It usually won't do it, able to identify, but just correcting it. I've not given a name this time. Okay, creating a semantic model via Fabric MCP with attached lake direct lake definition. Okay. And okay, so I have limit. I have touched my monthly limit. Fine. Okay. So it did try it out, but unable to do, and it searched for the alternate option and suggested me. So with this, I think this is most of the thing I wanted to show you in the demo. Let me see. There are certain questions. Let me check out.
Yes, Amit. So one is there from Sachin. Shall
Yeah.
I read it out to you?
Yeah, you can read or I can read. That's
Okay. Agent called agent called Fabric Pipeline, and if pipeline takes 15 to 20 to complete the backend process, so how to make agent more interactive so user cannot wait and get proper response.
See, it will trigger the pipeline, and after that, if you want to monitor it, then you have to again, then you have to call it out. Okay, keep on getting the pipeline activity so that it can monitor it. And if it has the access to the monitoring APIs, again, it is just because I can have a API which can trigger the pipeline. I need have to have another API which can tell me, okay, where the pipeline is, uh, uh, what stage pipeline is, or what all has it had access to. It can do the same work, but we go manually go ahead and see it. As long as the API is able to do, it would be able to interact with you that, okay, this pipeline is ongoing and whether this pipeline is errored out and all those.
I hope that answers your question, Sachin. And if you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to add it to the chat. Next is from Kumar Amit, and he's saying in a scenario where data needs to be extracted from Excel files into SQL tables or CSV files, and the Excel file contains multiple sheet with different formats, multi-row headers, and total subtotal rows by category that needs to be treated as a separate grouping columns, ignoring Synapse or Databricks, which Microsoft AI Azure AI service would be suitable for handling this requirement.
See, if you have this kind of complex data, first of all, even if you don't have, let's say, Azure service for it, means right now, let's look at the interaction which we are doing with MCP server. There is an LLM tool which is working, and these LLM would be really powerful to, identify your Excel table and work with that Excel table, identify your data and cut it off. So right now, which I'm using is uh, GitHub Copilot, and GitHub Copilot internally is calling the Claude. I could have used something else also. So similar manner, if I'm not very familiar with Azure AI APIs because I'm not using much about that, but if there is an API, we can use it. Otherwise, this engine, what we are using right now, the GitHub Copilot, should be able to identify in most of the cases what is your Excel data format, different kind of tables, and should be able to do it. Now, when you go to the complexity, which you talked about, that it has a pivot tables and it has subtotals and everything, definitely if the LLM is able to do it, or if there is an AI program which can do it, we need to call that and it should be able to do it. But probably with the different data sets and everything, it is able to do it. I'll give you one example. Now, I've not done it using MCP server, but a few days back, I got an Excel file which has a data and which is in a complex requirement. Like typically, you have the employee hierarchy kind of a requirement. This person is manager and this is the this one, and create a path kind of a requirement. And Claude was pretty much able to do by just by giving the header and defining the problem. And I have seen multiple time when you give the data, and in that case, even I have not given the data. I have given just the headers, and it was able to define a code which works perfectly fine to give the output what is needed. So the tools are really powerful as long as they are able to understand the structure. The LLM tools which you are using in your GitHub Copilot or directly integrating, means Claude can have a direct integration also. You might not need to go via the GitHub Copilot like the way I'm using. You can have the direct integration and it should able to solve those problems. And if it is a little complex, it is two-way communication again. Now, okay, you look at this and you say, no, no, you have not done this. So better in such cases, ask it to give the plan, that give me the plan for these Excel sheet, what you are going to do, and what is the sample data is going to insert. In that scenario, definitely you're not going to go hit and face error in the Fabric side. You will see the errors here. So pretty much doable. But yes, you can. My thinking is with LLMs on the back end with GitHub Copilot and our combination with MCP server, you should be able to do that. You can take up the next
Um,
question.
okay, I hope that answers your question, Kumar. There are no other questions on the chat, Amit, but we have a couple of minutes. So, attendees, if you have any question, please feel free to drop a message on the chat, and Amit is here to help us.
Okay, so I think there are while I think we have a couple of minutes, and hopefully the next speaker would be in a short duration. I just can tell you that this is one way we have done it, but we are also trying some another way where we are integrating the cloud code itself along with the MCP server and DevOps, and with the tickets we are able to create the example which I was giving initially, and that also gives us a success. So you define a ticket and it does the various job. Now there could be challenges like which we face, the APIs are not there, then we can actually do the configuration. And all this configuration is not something we are writing down. Again, we are asking Cloud Code, okay, I want to create this kind of a scenario. Give me what all APIs I need. What is the coding language I need? Give me this code, give me that code, and all those it is able to do. So AI is becoming so powerful. It means now the coding is something which is going to happen with help from the agentic AI, with the agents, or with you what you call VS Code plus co-pilots. So all this is going to do that major part of your coding. But definitely you need to know if something doesn't work out, how to go ahead and make it out. Like I was trying some libraries, semantic link library, and it hallucinated on it. I went ahead and checked out, okay, why it is saying it's given taken some library which was actually does not exist. So we have semantic link, and then we have semantic link lab. On top of that, we have another library. Then I went ahead and provided, okay, this is the exact library you can use, and this is the documentation. Please uh, read through that documentation and do it. And it was able to do that. So sometime when it is not doesn't able to find out a library or hallucinate to find it out, just go ahead and try to find out. And it happens when you don't have a scenario like you exactly have the MCP server or exactly have all the references, because I just use the code, give me the code using semantic link library, something like that. And in such scenarios, because it's going to search on the internet and going to do that, it may hallucinate. And that is where you, when you have the MCP server or something, it, okay, I can go and look at the reference points and can do it. In order to explore, can we utilize free resources instead of pay as you go? See, if you want to use free resources, first of all, to use the free resources, I think there is a GitHub Copilot, but it would have a limited uh, bandwidth when you use the free version of the Claude or the free version of ChatGPT. Means it's not that you always need to use or Claude. So like, like it's saying I use the 50%, I can go down to Sonnet or I can go to the GPT. Okay. So I can, bring down the things to make sure that, okay, I not using too much of stuff. So same way, if you don't have access to the higher libraries, you can also try out with the license. GitHub, Microsoft has discontinued GitHub Copilot. Okay. So then, then I think free one is discontinued. Then you need to have a pro subscription. So I think I had a pro subscription. That's why I'm able to use it. But I can tell you, you don't have to be that much. But usually what happens, even for the Claude code, this happened with us, that to create that MCP server kind of a scenario, MCP server integration directly with the cloud again, we require the pro subscription, because the amount of tokens which we are getting now in the free version is pretty less, especially, and it works great with the cloud. But you can check out with it the version of ChatGPT if you are able to integrate that. Means instead of using this via GitHub, can you directly integrate and check it out? You require a small connector in .NET, which for which the code will also be provided by LLM. Any other questions?
Sorry about that. I don't see anything on the chat right now, Amit, but in case for our attendees, if you have any questions for Amit, please reach out to him on LinkedIn or any of the social media connects. So he'll be there to help you. Thank you so much, Amit, once again for coming here with us today and taking this very important topic, as everywhere data is very, very important. So thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
With that, let me stop the recording.
Ritika Shubham.